You're listening to Inspired Caring with Michelle Magner, episode number 102. Hello, welcome to Inspired Caring. I'm your host, Michelle Magner. If you are caring for an older family member, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I bring insight, tips, inspiration, and strategies to help you care for the people that you love without losing yourself along the way. Having cared for both of my grandmothers, I've helped manage everything from hospital stays, households full of belongings, to navigating senior living and end-of-life care. And I've worked in senior living as a result of that experience, serving my residents and their families as they've been on this journey too. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoy this episode of Inspired Caring. Hello. I hope you're doing well. It has been 4 weeks since I recorded an episode, and 2 technical things happened that were a pain, and then 2 big life events happened. So one of which was technical. I recorded an episode twice and it didn't save. And that just sent me over the edge. I could not figure out why that happened. And then I tried recording another week just on my phone in my car, and it sounded like I was talking in a tin can. Anywho, I'm back. I think my tech is working properly, and I'm very excited to record this episode. And then the 2 big life events are, of course, if you listened several weeks back, you know that my mother-in-law passed away. She had been living with dementia for a really long time. And then our daughter graduated from high school. So we've just had this big swing of events and a lot of peopling. And I'm just looking forward to reconnecting with you, and am excited about today's episode, which actually is about, I had some unexpected feelings after the death of my mother-in-law. And I was just observing those feelings and taking note of them, and then realizing there were a few other things that came up for me. And so I just wanted to share those things with you. And over the years, I know so many people who have lost loved ones and parents, siblings, spouses, a child, best friends. And it is so hard to know what to do for people. Grief is deeply personal, and it's just not linear. And there's good days and bad days. And sometimes for me, it really just boiled down to good moments and bad moments. My mother-in-law passed away on April 18th. It was just over a month ago. She was only 75. So at age 51, and this is on the heels of my father-in-law passing away 14 months prior, I was surprised that I felt kind of abandoned by these parental units. And of course, they didn't abandon us. We don't get to choose how things unfold, and I look around at people who are in their 70s caring for aging parents in their 90s, and I was just surprised that I felt a little more ripped off than I had anticipated, not having more time with them, especially since we had the thief of dementia that took, subtracted a decade of our time with Sherry before she actually died. And I want to honor my feelings, and then just also recognize that generally there just never feels like there's enough time with people. I look around and I know there have been teenagers in our life and young children who have lost their parents just at very tender young ages. And I know there are parents who have lost their children. And I feel very sensitive. I never want to I don't want a scale of misery. I'm just acknowledging that that is how I felt. That had felt like I deserved, for some reason, more time with these people. And that caught me off guard. These are just some of the most profound human moments. Aren't they? They really are. And her last days were filled with comfort, peace, family, and love. We just all took turns being in space with her and holding her. And it really just felt like she had been restored for some reason. Her memory had been restored prior to her leaving, her departure, her death. And it was just really a beautiful time. People talk about the long goodbye of dementia, and that is for sure true. And there's still a permanency of death that is just unavoidable. So I've reflected on how I was feeling when she died. And the best way when I was talking with someone just to flush it out, that I could articulate it for me, was it felt like two different people had died. I mean, it felt weird, like we had been holding our breath since 2016, not knowing what the future was going to bring. I mean, my father-in-law was her primary caregiver, and the three of us, my husband, his brother, and I, filled in spaces here and there. But then he was diagnosed with terminal cancer and he passed away first, which, by the way, the caregiver passing away first is not uncommon. When a diagnosis is made of dementia, we have no timelines. Like, they can give you a general timeline, but they really cannot articulate to you what is going to happen during those passing years before someone's life is over because of dementia. So we don't know how someone will decline or how they'll respond or what types of behavior to expect. All of it's just so unclear. So it just had felt like since 2016, there had just been a little bit of a holding of breath, not knowing how things were going to play out. And I felt very, very much in the present moment with this woman, my mother-in-law, who was living with dementia. I was very open to what her needs were and how to best care for her and relate to her as to who she was in those present moments. And having worked in memory care, when I would tour families, I would be able to reassure people that the staff really loved their family member for who they are right now, showing up in the building, not who they were before dementia. Like, we just, as team members, don't have the baggage or expectations attached to people like family does. So I think I tapped into that a little bit with Sherry and just felt like she was just a different person than who she had been prior to dementia. And then as we were looking through pictures for her memorial service, it really reconnected me with who she was before dementia had really taken hold. And I don't know if this made my sadness deeper or just finally allowed the space to open up, that I had been feeling a different way or pent up since 2016, since she had the diagnosis, to just really feel this loss, not as who she was most recently, but also who she had been prior to dementia, like for the majority of her beautiful life. Very different woman. So I felt like I was grieving two people, not just the loss of her physical body, but the slow emotional loss that we had been experiencing as she slipped away. I was just deep in that grief too. And my kids, I have three kids and they have three grandmas. So lucky. And Sherry was the most present grandma to my kids. She was always there, for better or for worse. geographically, we lived closest to her, but then she absolutely delighted in them and spoiled them rotten. And so that relationship was so special, and it was hard to see her retreat as a grandmother as the dementia progressed. So I don't know, I'm kind of rambling, but saying goodbye to her, it just felt like saying goodbye to both versions of her. And it just left me feeling something else unexpected, which was I felt lonely. In the first 24 hours around her death, there was this flurry of activity and notifications and communication. And then most people quickly get back to their own lives, which is totally understandable. And I have literally done the exact same thing. Hopefully for some, but certainly not many or most. If I thought about someone after the fact, I would send a text to reach out to somebody. But I was just really surprised at how lonely I was feeling. And it was something that I noted going forward that I want to be sure for other people that I'm paying attention to. And I recognize that this is kind of a conundrum. There's a challenge here because there's a lot of little details to take care of that people have to take care of, and there's just a lot to manage. So people are super busy at first. And I know expressing the same profound surprise, sadness over and over again to someone, like maybe that's not going to be that helpful. Um, but I don't know. It felt like everybody was there and then everybody was gone. And I was talking with some friends about how I was feeling. And we didn't really come to a conclusion of how to navigate going forward. It just felt really good to share that I was feeling lonely and I felt somewhat abandoned in my grief. So that was something else I noted for going forward for me, not only to circle back to people, but to make sure I'm talking to people, other people. So I'm not just wallowing in my own self pity and grief. And caring for someone towards the end of their life and holding them as they pass is just a really tender time. And I think just having actually physically been there with her, there was just another little space that needed to be recognized and acknowledged for me, within me, because it felt precious. So that was something else that I noticed. So I observed that obviously there's a lot of logistics when someone dies. And so there's this space where you are receiving other people's condolences and they want and need to share their position in the life of the departed as well. And I think that is an important space as well. And I wanted to hold space for all of that, for all the people. I just started feeling a little lost in the shuffle. And it's embarrassing to admit that I felt attention seeking when obviously this person had a huge impact on so many different lives. And everybody's grieving and we're just all in it together. I found myself trying to just get through the motions of doing everything for the first time after each of them had died. So, for example, going to the grocery store or the gym, two great examples because I would go to yoga and then swing by to visit her, or leaving Costco sometimes I would swing by. So, there's like a stretch of road between Costco and then the place where either I have to turn left or right. And so I have found that I'm sparking a little sadness when I'm on that road. And I'm okay feeling the sadness. It's just an acknowledgement of it because I'm turning right to go home instead of left to go visit. And all of the people that you cross paths with, if they live in senior living, they all fade out because, again, there's a big flurry of activity. But then once they're gone, like I miss going to the building and I miss seeing the team members. Um, and there's a space there, there's a void there. They're just poof, all gone from my life, which is hard. So, as I was thinking about these reflections about how I was feeling after she had died, there was a few other little random things that I came up with that I hope I can remember to do for someone else when they lose a loved one. And I thought I'd share those with you too. So, the first thing is to just check in more often with people after that initial flurry of condolences. As we were planning services and stressed out, trying to navigate all of that, just hearing from anyone felt nice. And my sister would just send me a little text that said, checking in. It wasn't, how are you doing or how's it going? It just said, checking in. And I thought that was very nice. A friend dropped off a fruit basket on our porch in a bowl, like a ceramic bowl. Maybe she'd bought it at a thrift store, but that was just really wonderful. We did not have to return the bowl, and she noted that in the note, but it was really nice to just have a bowl of fresh fruit dropped on our porch. Okay, the other thing, 2 words, baked goods. My daughter and I were at the house the day after she died, and all I could think about were baked goods. And everybody just like flutter rose to the occasion. We had banana bread, bagels and cream cheese, homemade cookies, fancy store cookies. All these things just arrived, and I felt so happy. Baked goods made me feel happy. So I'm thinking sending some cookies to a house is a good thing. Of course, being mindful of someone's dietary restrictions. Receiving those condolence cards in the mail brought me a surprising sense of comfort, which I guess that shouldn't be surprising because that's what they're there for, right? That's why they're made. But each card just felt so unexpected and very sweet, and people were writing the nicest things in the cards about her. So I really enjoyed reading those notes. I was so also delighted to have friends stop by the visitation. Like, that actually felt really meaningful to me. It was just so delightful and kind of them, and it did feel kind of unexpected. I knew there would be so many people there tied to her, my mother-in-law, and her life, but it felt very sweet and special to have some of my people come. So that was nice. Okay, number 6. I noted that having like a nice or funny story to share during that visitation or the drop off, or if you stay for the service, was really heartwarming. I mean, it was really nice when they do the open mic for people to share, to hear other people's thoughts and stories and comments. So I just am taking note of that for the future. Okay, we ate out for almost 6 days straight. 6 days. So someone did drop a meal off, and that was so helpful. And someone else sent a gift card to a restaurant for takeout, and that was great. Those were very, very helpful things. Okay, this is the last thing, and it's so totally random. But so many people made very generous donations in her memory, and some of those things were checks. And we were so grateful, and we've done some beautiful things with those donations. It definitely added a layer of complexity onto our heavy task-based list when they made the check out to anyone other than my husband or his brother. So for me, going forward, if I write a check, I will write it out to whoever the survivor is, the spouse, the child, and then just write in the memo line where I'd like it to go, because people were pretty creative who they were writing the check to, and So it just made it kind of complicated. And our brains just were not functioning that well. We were not we were not in high functioning mode. So I mean, really, the bottom line is for those of us who are middle age, we're in this robust stage of life with a big push on our careers, our growing and empty nesting children, reevaluating for the next chapter of our lives. And it's interwoven with a lot of fragile threads of losing loved ones and gaining diagnoses and divorces. And as I navigate all of these spaces, I really just desire to feel connection. It's one of my core values. And I'm looking around and I see that so many others are in this same chapter. And I know I'm not alone in this, and neither are you. We're in this together. So as you walk these next years, be sure to pay attention to yourself and what you need, and know that I see you and I love you, and keep up the great work. We've got this.